Hey everybody, I'm Steve Knotts. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make distorted kick drums for hardcore, Frenchcore beats, 220 BPM kind of stuff. If you're into that music, you're going to love this. You can follow along and build the rack while you're watching the video. Or if you want to just get the rack and play with it, I'll tell you at the end how to do that. So what are we doing? First, we're starting with a 909 kick drum sample. You've heard that before. I'm going to flip on the rack and we're going to go to this kind of sound. Deep, heavy round kicks, or even all the way out to here, which is crazy. So it's super fun and it's actually very easy. And the best thing is you can do it with Ableton devices. So to start off with, let's look at the first thing in the plugin chain is filter drive. What is that going to do? That's auto filter. I've got it on a vintage circuit model, which allows you to have the drive. And you can simply, with that one plugin and that one trick, you can just make your kick drums bigger, fatter, heavier, and sounding really good. Now, what about EQ? EQ scale. What are we doing here? We're doing an 80 shelf boost, 80 hertz low shelf boost. And we've got some important frequencies. 285 is interesting in like the low mid range. That's kind of where like kick drums can be kind of muddy and sound kind of like a cardboard box, which you don't really want. So I like to cut that down somewhere around 600, somewhere between 500 and 700. Kick drums usually also sound sort of hollow or like tubby, you know, and that's a nice spot to cut out. Around 2K, 2.5K is like the click on the front of a kick drum. So if you want that hard attack with like a smack on the front of it, you can go there and boost up that frequency. And then the other one I have a cut at is 4.5K, which doesn't really cause a problem in a lot of kick drums, but I want to just point it out that our ears are really sensitive to that frequency. So sometimes it's useful to put in a little notch or something like that and cut that frequency down. So EQing kick drums, short answer, go to 600 hertz, cut out like 12 dB, just like dump it out and your kicks are going to sound better. So we added some filter drive, did some EQ. Now we're going to hit the compressor. And right now with just these three plugins, you can make your kick drums sound amazingly better. We started here. That's the rack off, rack on. See what I'm saying? Now let's bring in some compression with the glue compressor. It's already working. Let me back down the drive to make it a little more clear what the compressor is doing, okay? So the threshold is coming down, the makeup gain is going up to compensate for the gain reduction that the compressor is doing. And then at the end of this, I have this clipper mapped to come on. If you're dialing the threshold all the way down, you really want to get that kind of like buzzing clipping sound, you can get that. Let's bring that drive back up. Knob 1, filter drive. Look at what's happening here. The ratio is changing from 2 to 4. 4 to 1 ratio is doing a greater amount of gain reduction when it crosses the threshold. Just listen to how that tone changes though. So this is a tone shaping device, really. It's doing compression, it's doing gain reduction, but the fun part is that it just makes it sound cool. Now listen to how when the clipper comes in, slight tonal difference. Okay, so let's back that drive down a bit, take the compression down a little bit. Here's the fun one, Crunch Flavor. This is the drum bus plugin. To start off with, this knob number 4 here is called Distortion Flavor. Watch what's happening. We're going to kick in the compressor on the drum bus and go through different types of distortion from wave shaping, clipping, and like a bass boost. Now that's an awesome one when you click in the hard setting on the drum bus compression. There's off, on, soft, on medium, and on hard. Now try driving some more level up into this get some of that gentle fuzz you can really hear coming from the auto filter. So next after this, distortion flavor, we did that a little bit. What is drive 2? That's adding drive inside drum bus. In terms of tone shaping, we're getting some more distortion. Excuse me. We got some crunch on the upper mid-range frequencies. Getting nasty. What I really like in drum bus is the transient shaper. When you have negative values, it makes it more of like an attack with a short sustain. Kind of cuts off the tails. Bow, 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 like a stubby short kick. And positive values give you like a longer tail. So if you're going for that long, distorted fuzz tail, check out transients at a positive value, more drive. I love that. Or if you want like a cleaner, stubby kick, go to negative transient values and maybe even take some of the crunch down so it doesn't have that high frequency. Okay? And then I put in a knob for boom if you want to even go deeper with the lows. So for this first example, let's keep going with the feeling of kind of a clean kick with a lot of bass. And that's covering the whole top row of macros out to the drum bus. Next, we have some tone shaping options with channel EQ. This low knob is called low EQ bypass. I map it so you can bypass the device so you don't have to use it. An important note on production is you don't have to use every plugin on every sound. If you have a sound and it's in your mind and you know what you want to get, then grab the plugin that gets you that sound. But if you're just doing a sound and it sounds okay, think of plugins as problem-solving tools. You don't have to use them every single time unless you can clearly identify a problem that you need to solve with a notch EQ or another device or something. So if you don't need to EQ your sound anymore, don't add extra crap. Just, export it, render it, resample it, use it, get going with your production and keep going. It is fun to play with those. So here we have the low channel EQ. So I'm going to kick in, activate it. It gives you a place to add more lows if you want like a ridiculous amount of bass. Here's another spot to add some mid-range gain. You can hear that up around 2K, it has that crack, crack, crack kind of smack attack on the front. It helps it cut through. The upper mid-range of the kick drum helps it cut through rhythmically so you hear exactly where it's going. If you're doing stutters and rolls, that'll give you the micro timing of exactly when the kick drum hits are happening instead of a big floofy like whoa, whoa, whoa. And then if you have those low mids, here you can really hear that 600. When you cut it out, it sort of feels like deeper and heavier. And when you add it in, it feels like that boxy plywood kind of boxy sound. So I generally like to cut 600, add a little more low, and then you have the high gain if you're doing some serious buzz, distortion, and fuzz. Speaking of, the next auto filter in the line, serious tone shaping. We've already compressed the crap out of this thing. The dynamics are done. We have a knob called Distortion Bypass. Okay. Get to my second row. And again, I like to have the option to turn the devices on and off. So this second auto filter, you bring up the knob, turns the filter on, second row, and we're adding drive again. And listen to the tone go crazy. It's amazing. Here's where you get into the nasty kick drum sounds. I also mapped a knob for the distortion circuit. So in the vintage circuit models, watch right here on auto filter, we're going to go through a few different flavors of distortion. These circuit models, it doesn't matter what they're doing, they're changing the tone is how you can think about it. They're doing some cool stuff electronically, but that's in synthesizer world. So let's crank up some drive and listen to the different types of distortion. And then there's clean if you want to just use the filter, but here we go. So you can pick out like the color of distortion by selecting a different circuit model. And of course, filters sound best when they're moving, so we have a low-pass filter. It just gets crazy. I should do another whole workshop on auto filter. We got the envelope modulator happening. We got an LFO modulating the filter a little bit with a kind of a dive bomb sound with a downward sawtooth form. I'm just going to roll this filter up and down and go through different circuit models. PRD, higher, sharper. MS2. I like this one. And then the OSR. A little bit less aggressive. Let's check this out one more time. I'm going to go PRD all the way down. Like that's a proper kick drum right there, right? So you could take this and resample it and just have that one sample repeatedly for your whole track. Or what I like to do is modulate the modulators during the track to make a build up, to make a dramatic moment, to build tension, to lead up to a climax, slowly move these filters. And then later, roll it down when you're leading up to a breakdown to draw attention to something else in the track, like a vocal sample or a, whatever kind of thing. And then finally, after that, you always want to put a limiter in your rack. So if you need to adjust your overall level, you can bring it down a little bit. Now the limiter is not smashing the sound anymore. Or if we want to really, really, really smack it, we can drive the sound up into the limiter ceiling and get this totally, completely wrecked sound. So that's what I love to do playing around with kick drums. And notice that in this Live 11 rack, I made some snapshots or presets where you can go through all these different kind of flavors and dial in hard, short, deep sounds, right? Round, kind of heavy. Stubby one, like I was talking about, with a shorter decay, shorter sustain, transient shape around a negative value. Getting into some crunch. Or we go to long tails, distortions, boom. Different flavors of distortion. Ah, nasty. And then the last one I call distortion filter, which is meant for tweaking, which I love doing. So that is the Kick Drum Punisher rack, and I hope this helps you understand what you can do with auto filters specifically to select different types of circuit models and add drive to get that buzzy, crunchy tone that distorts in such a nice way at high levels, or it just adds volume and makes it louder and feel louder and heavier. Another really fun bonus in here is in the drum rack, when you turn on the drum rack compression, these soft, medium, hard models do really interesting things to the tone. And you could also do all these things on a bass line, and it's going to get crazy good. So I hope that helps you understand something about using stock Ableton devices to get great sounds, make some kick drums that you could either resample and use in a drum rack, or just put this on your kick drum channel and slowly morph these parameters during the song to keep your sound interesting, give you your own unique sound design world that people recognize. Like, people recognize tracks that have an interesting sound. So the more you can tweak your sounds slowly and modulate them and get them moving, the more people are going to be like, whoa, what was that? It's kind of like a psychedelic thing of the sounds shifting, and they always sound better and better and better. So if you want to grab the rack right now and play with it, what you can do is go to the link in this video on my Gumroad for Mixotexture. The Kick Drum Punisher rack is in here for $9, super cheap. There's another video to preview it. Here's a picture of the knobs for Live 11 with the presets. Live 10, it also works with 2 different banks of controls. And I want you to know I actually built this rack in Live 10. So if you're using 10, it's going to work perfectly. You'll get all the same sounds. You just don't get the presets, unfortunately, because that's the way it goes. So that's the link, and I hope this helps. I hope you like watching it. I'm Steve Nuts from Mixotexture, the architecture of your mix. Thanks a lot. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. See you next time.